Hello, fellow apes. I'm back. I have for you a couple more entries into my psychedelic diary. I actually don't know if I've read this one before. I'm almost positive I have not, but I'm not going to go watch all my videos again. These are these are some that I've assimilated lately. I haven't really been as organized as before with the whole order of them all, but trust me, they're all mine, and they're all new, I think. Um, if you want to imagine me right now, go ahead and close your eyes. Imagine a tall guy sitting in a black office chair in front of two monitors. He's got a bit of a cold, so his voice is a little nasally. His voice might crack too. Um, the window's cracked open. I can feel the breeze on my leg. Okay, that's enough description. Alright, okay. I don't know what I'm talking about. Here's an entry. One day I decided to go for a walk. Bored in my room, I thought to myself, let me go on a bit of a walk. An adventure might ensue and maybe I'll forget these four walls. I got up out of my bed and slid out of my window. My bare feet slapped the ground beneath me and my journey was underway. No going back. I started off in no direction in particular, rather just aiming for the horizon. The sun was low and I began to feel it touch me pleasantly, as if to say, ah, welcome back, old pal. I sensed some cold. Let me fix that. And now with warmth I traveled. I walked past houses and I walked past dogs and shrubs. I walked until the sun began to hide under the mountains for the night. But before it disappeared, it seemed to say, well, my son, my time has come for the day, and the moon will be out to play in my place. But before I go, I have something important to show you. And within minutes the sky began to change color. I don't know if you can hear that, but my cat is trying to bust through the crack in my window. She might pull on my blinds. Oh, is she gonna do it? Sorry. That's what that is if you hear it. Continuing. And within minutes the sky began to change color. Light yellows and oranges dissolved into deep purples and reds. The sky took on new shapes and screamed with beauty into my soul. I stared in awe, for the sky began to take form. The form of a huge face. It was me, in the sky, and I smiled down at me, and I waved back up at me. Then just as fast as the show of the sun began, it ended, and I was met with the dark of the night. Now by this time in my walk I had long since left the city, and I had reached a long stretch of open hillside sprinkled with brush and trees. I thought that it was about time I sit down and let myself catch my breath. I found a great oak and sat down at the roots of the tree. The night was still and silent. A silver blanket covered the ground as the moon cast its metallic light onto the world around me. As I sat, I looked up into the stars and I saw many familiar faces. The stars have looked down on me that way since I first decided to tilt my head up to the dark heavens as a mere child. I recognized the patterns of the ancient universe in a way that comforted me. The stars have been this way since the day I began, and will be just like this until I am no longer. This comforted me into a sleepy bliss, when suddenly an owl began to sing. The blur of sleep left me abruptly as I listened intently. His song was a bit solemn and almost scary at times, but after some fine-tuning of the ear, I found his song quite interesting. On, on the night of the walk, he sung of a boy. He sung the song of a clueless boy becoming a man. Not only a man, but the man whose face appears in the clouds, and whose words are heard in the hearts of anyone who might listen. The owl sung this song, and I listened closely. He whispered, the boy from the stories of old and of new, the boy did decide what he was to do. He trampled and stumbled until he could walk, and now that he can, he just will not stop. And with this tune in my head, I began on my walk once more. No need for rest. I was awake, and the night was alive, and towards the horizon I walked, spring in my step. The dark didn't bother me one bit, for all of time and history had been leading up to that very moment, and my own light shone brighter than any sun. Um, Here's a mantra that struck me one night during an acid trip. The highs are the highs and the lows are the lows. Open your eyes, silence the ego. Live in the moment and let your pleads go, for you are the center and not to be known. Um, I'll read one more. I don't really have that many, but actually, maybe I'll read two more. Yeah, I'll read two more. I might read three more, dude. Now that I think about it, hey, I don't got anything better to do. Okay, here's another one. Time and time again, I stumble blindly into realizations. Blindly I stumble and mumble, poking and prodding at plants and rocks, and at myself and the minds of people. Each step I take one of pure faith, as the future proves impossible to combat, as something to be defeated. And time again, I find that my very own nature has come to embody a similar process as to that which inspires me. The elusivity of sureness, the seemingly few and far between sincere and true moments in life, the nagging voice singing songs of truth. The unpredictability of my own being is the very unpredictability that so defines the entire world around me and my entire life. I simply cannot find solace in the mundane, the humdrum and the predictable. As hard as I may try to subscribe to normalcy, some part of me tugs and begs and pulls me away into a curious pursuit of something larger than myself. And this pursuit is hardly ever completely fulfilled, as is the very nature of this game I play. It seems, though, that the whole point of this game is the inevitable collection of surprises along the way when I pay good attention. As my interests and blind pursuits ensue, so does the path of my great walk widen. I run ahead of the group chasing a rabbit made of light, and he leaps off the path in an attempt to elude me. We skid and turn. I can't be fooled, I think to myself. The voices of my peers far behind as I run and huff and puff, fixated on the impossibility of the scenario. He leads me deep into the woods until the rabbit slips under the tree's root, and my arm is propelled in after it. With my armpit in the dirt and squints in my eyes, I slowly look up to the sky and see the clouds twirl and spin in a brilliant display. I'm captured by this, and I squint even harder and see the clouds have made form to spell out the words, "It's you." And I'm instantly frozen in awe, absolutely floored with the silence and wholeness. When the clouds fade away, Then the clouds fade away with my amazement, abruptly as the rest catch up. I stumble out of the woods like a madman with dirt on my shirt and twigs in my hair. For God's sake, what have you been doing all this time? We're on a hike, for crying out loud. Please, no fooling around until you've reached the designated campsite. Only trouble to me is that we've been hiking my whole life, and I've grown skeptical of this campsite they speak of. It seems no one has made it to this perfect and painless state. And this cannot discourage me, as I know that the perfection exists mere yards off the heavily traveled path. Nonetheless, life continues at its steady pace, and I secretly can't forget about the chase. Now, while on this great path surrounded by people carrying heavy packs, perpetually looking down at the dirt in front of their feet and holding delusions of perfection, I let my gaze drift into the trees and the stars and the sun and the clouds, for I know one day again I may just catch a glimpse of something very close to myself. And here's the last one for today. The mind seeks clarity. Some minds more than others, but we all have a propensity towards trying to gain some understanding by taking time to reflect and, quote, clear our mind. Some people's mind becomes clear very early on in life. For some it might feel too early. From the get-go, a few people see right through the glass layers of the mind. And in self-reflection, these people see straight down into the things that the mind tries to hide. Some can peer deep into their own psyche and see great vistas, neighboring their deepest fear. So for these people, life is a bit intense from the start, but this is fine. As whether viewed as an obstacle or an upper hand in life, it remains true. So some sort of comfortability is destined to grow between you and the deeply hidden and profound corners in your head. Now suppose the entire mind is glass, and the whole universe a simple mirror image of the mind. What would this mean? This means that as one's mind reaches absolute clarity, it seems he is getting lost. As the reflection of all the glass that surrounds him, and is the very building block for, quote, him, fades away, so does he in a sense. Still aware he is, but his mind has become so clear after digging through layers in his head that he realizes there was nothing there at all this whole time. However, in some impossible feat, in some grand defiance of all universal laws, deep in thought and completely lost, void of all attachment, experiencing all things connection to such a degree that all appears shapeless, he remains. The mind plays a great game with itself, and this is the game of illusion. The game involves the single mind of all totality, taking some time and getting lost in its own expanse, only to eventually find itself again in the nothing beyond clarity. And that's all, folks.